And here we go. Okay. Bring you in, chat. Let's start doing some questions. Let's start feeling these. You're like an old Chinese kung fu master that shares knowledge. I'm not that old. Not that Chinese either. Anyway, appreciated, I think. As Tracer Genji, should you always go for the supports? No, is the short answer. Ideally, you should be going for whatever's most vulnerable at the time. Like, it's very, very situational. In the initial dives, a support is generally going to be that first target. Like, the primary target is always going to be some form of support or something immobile. Either that or it's going to be like a counter dive onto something like a Winston, which is going to be very, very strong as well. So the idea is that, like, Winston dives in and you just put a Discord orb on him and you just kill him. It can work extremely well. Like, if the Winston gets out of position or can be isolated from his team, dies very quickly. The other thing is, like, you know, if they've got something immobile, like can't evade damage very well, like a McCree can also be very vulnerable to a dive, so the dive can go on that target. Zenyatta's always going to be an obvious one, but Zenyatta's at high level will just usually play very defensively before sort of... So, like, let's pretend we're on Lijiang Tower. Let's draw it over here. So this is, like, the garden area, okay? So that's the garden. The control point's back here. You got your spawn direction coming out here. Their spawn's coming out here. So you got, like, a wall here, and, like, a wall here, wall here, wall here. Little dragon statues, or little lion statues here. Okay? Your team pushes out here. Their team pushes out here. What you'll usually find is the Zenyatas will either stay around here, or they'll even sometimes like pop up over here, although it's very rare that they do, because that can leave them really vulnerable, unless they're like trying to just hang super far back around here. But they usually be quite like tucked far back in the back to be nice and safe. This looks like a face with a moustache, an unhappy face, and he's a bit sweaty. But yeah, so usually the dive goes on something more accessible, and then we'll just go super aggressive. But the Zenyatta is like an absolutely valid target. I'd say that like something like a Mercy is a bit trickier. Lucio is also a bit trickier just because they can evade that much longer. The longer a dive takes, the worse it goes. You should generally be trying, like, especially as Tracer, I say more than anything, is to put pressure onto supports, and then just to make the life difficult, because a Mercy who's trying to evade you isn't healing what she wants to heal, isn't healing the targets that unnecessarily require healing. She's just trying to get away from you half the time, so she can't be as efficient as she normally is. Same is kind of true for an Ana. An Ana fighting against you or a Tracer isn't healing people, so you're just sort of removing healing by just existing. Zenyatta, you should just be looking to one clip whenever you get an opportunity to do, or if you're playing as Genji, just put a little bit of poke into him, then go in for a finishing blow. Lucio is a bit trickier, and you'll generally need some kind of help as a flanker to kill off Lucios. Just because they're mobile and they can actually deal a surprising amount of damage, so it's a little bit tough. If you're ulting as Genji, then absolutely find the Mercy first. Otherwise, look for something like a Zenyatta or a Lucio. Try and put pressure on them, try and bait out their support ultimate, or kill them before they can do it. So yeah. Do you think Doomfist Rocket Fist should be nerfed a bit? I am on the fence at the moment. I think that it's very likely to be the new Scatter Arrow. So what I mean by the new Scatter Arrow is it's going to be very much a case of, like, there will be times, and this has happened to me when I was playing on PTR earlier, where you turn a corner and Doomfist just hits you, and then you get slammed into a wall and you die, and you just kind of go, oh well, I didn't know that was going to happen. But the thing, like the difference between Doomfist's fist and say Roadhog's hook is that it's pretty simple, right? This is Roadhog. Okay, this is Roadhog, and Roadhog hooks someone and then pulls them to him. This is Doomfist. Okay? Doomfist punches someone and he goes to them. Like, they get punched into a wall. The Doomfist ends up out of position, Roadhog pulls you out of position. And so this is where sort of Doomfist can be weak, because if he doesn't connect with the punch, or the punch doesn't kill someone, or the punch fucks up, or anything happens to stop the punch killing someone, he just can die. Like, you can just be stuck very much out in the open, and then just go down. And so it's very, very difficult. What is the best way to get better at sword? Play a lot of quick play, and then just try bouncing around as much as you can with that. My advice is just to like try and keep calm. Like you can generally notice very quickly because like a new Genji will be like doing this with his mouse. Like you can see it and it's like, ah. So they have Parkinson's or something. They just go nuts and like they're very, very twitchy and shaky. As you get better and better with it, it starts looking more and more smooth and more like swish, dash, slash, dash, slash, dash. Or if you've got nano boost, it's just dash, slash, dash, slash. Ugh. Words, English, hard. So it gets very smooth. Don't panic. Understand how the angle of the Dragon Blade and how the swipe works in terms of functionality. So when you push left click, it's very much like the Reinhardt hammer in that it will generate like a cone in front of you of damage, and as you slash through it, it will deal damage through that cone. So that's how you can deal damage with it. It's got a very, very sort of a lot of vertical allowance with it. You can actually get a tiny bit of range, like the cone itself, if I try and draw a 3D shape here, which is kind of always a mistake. So it's not like a, it's more like a slice of cheese than anything. In terms of like how it visually looks. Actually, let's just draw it fucking a wireframe. Like it's more like a slice of cheese than a rounded thing that you would expect. Like it's not like a cut from a circle, it's very much like a vertical slice. So if anything is in these areas, then they can take damage, and that's why like your swing, say it goes along here, along the middle, this is technically like a longer distance than this, because it's a hypotenuse on a triangle. So you can actually get a little bit of extra range out of it. But practice, like, is the only way of doing it. You can practice that in quick play. I recommend doing it in quick play. And you can sort of build from there. Just get calm with it, try and build up Dragon Blades, try and confirm your kills with it, and just get used to the combos. Dragon Blade can be used to force ult, sound barrier trans 1-for-1 ult. Is this worth it for both sides? Yes, which is kind of a weird answer. So what you're generally trying to do if you're using a Dragon Blade to force an ult is you're trying to set yourself up for the next fight where you will have something else to do. So for example, with Modern Dive Comp, you might be thinking, well, you know, Dragon Blade's sort of the only big finisher, but you can also like do nano boosted Winstons, for example, which is an extremely potent way of getting a couple of easy kills. And what you're trying to do usually is facilitate ways of doing that, where you either kill the support that's going to use the ultimate, or you're fishing out the ultimate. And the turnaround of that is that if the support doesn't ult and the support dies, and then okay, you might as well not even have that ultimate anymore, you can then go on and just win a fight. So in determining like is it worth it to use it, you've got to consider like what other support ultimates are available. Make sure that if you do have 2 defensive support ultimates available, like Lucio Zenyatta is just like the common one now, those 2 supports should be communicating, and in general I'd say the Zenyatta should be ulting first, because Transcendence is instantaneous while Sound Barrier is, like, takes a second or 2, and then you can use Sound Barrier after Transcendence. So in my mind the burden of like first ult should be on the Transcendence, and then it should be on the Lucio. Like the reason why I tend to trance is because by the time an enemy ult has started, I've pressed Q, and then like 2 seconds later the Lucio ult finishes and actually activates, and so it can be kind of frustrating like that. But it is worthwhile. Like, it's absolutely worth using. When that does happen to you as Genji, just try and find a target. Unless you want nano boosted, if you're nano boosted, then you can try and get kills. You've just got to dash and slash pretty much instantaneously, and you will kill someone. But otherwise, it's very, very tricky to do. It takes some practice. Like, very, very, very high level Genjis are practiced at it, but most people aren't. It's possible to kill people through Zenyatta, but tough. Very tough. So yes. It's sort of worth it for both sides, and it's a sort of a quantified trade that you know is going to happen. Any tips to play supports in the hell that is dive meta? Just understand that the dive is going to be coming for you, and understand your job, if you are being dived, is to survive, and then try and find ways of doing that as best you can. So, if you're playing our friend Zenyatta, for example, and the Winston jumps on you, try and make sure that a Discord Orb goes on that Winston ASAP. Like, during mid-jump, he should land with the Discord Orb. If he doesn't, you are in a lot of trouble. I've noticed, like, in my own play, that if Winston lands and has a Discord Orb on him, 9 times out of 10, he will die before he kills me. If he doesn't land with the Discord Orb on him, I will usually die, and then the rest of my team will die because the Winston has too much health. You've got to get that Discord on him as soon as you can. Then after that, try and find stuff like a Diva, for example. You can put a defense matrix on you and peel for you to stop a lot of damage going on you. That will keep you alive that little bit longer. Try and make sure that your right click's landing on Winston to get that bonus damage in. Try and make sure all these other bits and pieces are working to get that all working properly. Make sure that your other support, like Lucio, should be amping to heal you if he can, and stuff like that. If you're playing Lucio, then just try and evade for as long as you can. Use Boop to knock people back to try and buy you a little bit more time, and then just try and find health packs and stuff that can keep you alive. Like Lucio's more flexible, more mobile, shouldn't be too big of an issue. As Anna, self-grenade, but try and catch someone else in it. Try and sleep dart someone on the way in if you can, and otherwise just find the other support and hope that they can keep you alive. It's kind of tricky. Once your cooldowns are done as Anna, it's very hard to stay alive, but make sure you do have that self-heal on, because you really are going to need it. If you're playing Mercy, then you just got to dash you around all over the place and get away, but I'm not a big Mercy player, so I couldn't tell you too much more than that. Crow seems to think that counters to Doomfist are Reaper, Bastion, Hog, and his beloved Junkrat. Would you agree? I'd say Junkrat does pretty well against Doomfist. Like, Junkrat excels when enemies are large and want to get near him. Doomfist, like, can't fight Junkrat that easily directly, but then when he's close, Doomfist can just kill Junkrat pretty easily. So it's kind of like a they blow each other up situation. Reaper, I'd say, is a better time. Bastion, I'm not so keen on. I'd need to try that more, but I think that the Bastion's immobility just means that Doomfist runs circles around him and kills him. And Hog, yeah, Hog fucks up Doomfist. Like, you can bounce the Fat Man around a bit, but he's just going to shoot you to death. And you are so large that you'll take a lot of damage. What am I supposed to do when the team go all in different directions as Genji? I have 65 hours on Genji on console, but I'm still having problems with positioning. I'm assuming if you mean, like, the enemy team, then you just work in a priority list. Like, if the enemy team does a perfect fucking delta split, they all go in 6 completely equidistant directions, and form a lovely hexagon. So there we go. And they're all going completely different directions. Then A, their team is completely divided, and you should just, like, if your team just stays as a clump and just takes care of problems one by one, you won't have too much of an issue. What usually more the case is, like, 2 people will split off one direction, so you'll have, like, both supports looking after each other in one direction, the tanks will dive in one direction, and then, like, the DPS will be putzing around somewhere. Okay, and they'll all be going in sort of different directions. Either peel back and deal with the tanks. If you've got a Zenyatta, then it makes your life very easy. Just kill whatever's discorded. Otherwise, just go and put pressure on their supports, usually with the rest of your dive. So Winston Tracer should be helping you. You clean this up, then you can sort of double back, kill this, double back, kill this. And it's just a matter of sort of working through a priority list of going, okay, like, can I kill the supports? If the answer is yes, then kill the supports. If can I kill anything else easily? If the answer is yes, go kill that. If I can't, then what is the rest of the team doing? Can I help with that somehow? If the answer is yes, go help with that. Is there an opportunity for me to build up a lot of Dragon Blade? Let's say that there's 5 people all stood in like a big clump. If you just dash through it, you can get a shitload of Dragon Blade, and then you can go and chase after an individual target. Your objective isn't necessarily to fight here, it's just to do a lot of damage and get 20% free ultimate charge. It can work reasonably well as well. Is it always necessary to flank as Tracer? It's sometimes going to be better to stick with your team to help in the front line. So the only instance I'd say is when you're doing like a counter dive, then it's very useful for the Tracer, but Tracers should honestly be playing 90% of the time very independent. Even in sort of pro level games, if you watch the Tracers, they're usually very independent of what everyone else is doing and trying to set up their own stuff and then trying to sort of capitalize whenever anything's happening. They'll go in, they'll find a way to capitalize and then get something out of it. The only exception, like I said, is when counter dive happens. So if their Winston just jumps in, the Tracer can be integral in just doing a huge amount of damage to him. If a Discord Orb is on him and Genji's hitting him, Winston just fucking melts. So yeah, like, don't be afraid to help out on that. But once the fight has started, or like if the focus isn't on the Winston, then you should be splitting off and looking for stuff like a Zenyatta to harass or supports to poke down, or looking for one-clip opportunities, people without cooldowns as well that might be a little bit vulnerable. Try to find those things and exploit them. When going for supports and Anna and Mercy heal each other, is it good to stay there? The rest of the team has no heals. I'm generally dubious on it. Like, my usual advice, ideally, you would turn. And what I mean by that is, because, like, on paper, that sounds fucking great. The 2 supports are looking after, are completely healing each other, and then you're just, like, tying up 2 people as one. Great, 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 great. You got to remember that you are a big component of your team's DPS. And what's more likely to happen isn't that the 2 supports are necessarily completely supporting one another. So this, like, you think that this is the case, but the case is generally more like, okay, this support is healing this support, and then this support is healing something else. Like, especially if it's Mercy Anna, then, like, if you dive the Mercy, Anna will just pump healing into Mercy, Mercy will just pump healing into someone else. Even more true if it's the Anna, because what will happen is Mercy will just heal up Anna, and Anna will keep healing people on the front line, kind of disregarding you, or maybe trying to just put an anti-heal grenade on you or something, but then she would just focus on healing. So what the reality is that you're more tying up a single healer as they take care of the one that you've gone for, and then that healer is then supporting the fight tends to go badly, and then stuff dies. To me, the absolute peak ideal is that you go in, you force the supports to react to each other, like very briefly, and then as they're reacting to each other, you peel off, and then whatever the rest of the team is fighting, you try and get a very quick kill on that before the supports can react to where that damage is going. So it has to be a very quick thing, and you have to realize, okay, these two supports are looking after each other, I cannot kill them, I'm effectively being nullified. If they're completely out of position, then sure, put pressure on them, but if they are in positions where they can look after the rest of their team, you've got to just peel away, because they will just support the rest of your team, and you'll be doing fucking net 0 damage, and that's bad. When is it better to use fan over just straight shuriken? So straight shuriken is much better if you are looking to finish, well... Okay, so the obvious, let's get the obvious out of the way first. Close range fan is a lot better. The DPS on fan is just higher because you're throwing 3 shurikens all at once, so if you throw 3 shurikens at a time and you keep hitting those, your DPS is going to be higher naturally. Whereas with normal shuriken, it's like 1, 2, 3. And so your DPS is going to be lower. The danger of fan is that you run out of ammo very quickly. You can waste a lot of ammo by just sort of spamming all over the place. And it is, you know, at medium range, only 1 is ever going to hit, right? Because people aren't that huge. At close range, sure, whatever, all 3 can hit. Or 2 at least could probably hit. I'd say that in general, like, get used to using the left click at longer ranges and just trying to, when you're doing poke, if you're desperately trying to finish someone off, I do find that right click just works a lot better. So if you do know that like 1 or 2 shurikens will put them into dash range or will just finish them off outright, then don't be afraid to just use the fan of blades just to try and get that kill. If you are using the left clicks, then just remember to draw a line with them. So like you just see what the enemy is doing, and you try and draw a line a little bit ahead of them because it's projectile, and just keep drawing lines over the enemy. So if Genji is the enemy, we just want to like draw a line with our shuriken so that if he goes left, he's going to take a shuriken. If he stays put, he's going to take a shuriken. If he goes right, he's going to take a shuriken. And we're almost using like a fan. We're creating a fan, but it's a lot tighter spread in doing so. But in general, I'd say just get used to using the left click as much as you can when you are engaging or when you're poking, trying to build up ultimate or trying to whittle someone down to get the finishing blow, and then you want to dash use right clicks to finish off and get the cleanup. That's the general logic I tend to use. What will Doomfist role or objective in a team fight be as your what is your primary role as Doomfist? Doomfist is just like, he should be the second person into a fight basically. The first person should be your dive tank, which is probably going to be Winston. The reason why Doomfist does not go in first is that at best he's going to have 400 hit points, and that's very unlikely. And if you do go in first, you're just going to fucking die. So that's no use. But if Winston goes in, he creates a bit of interference, you can then generally get in, do some damage, get your slam down, get some shields up, and then start punching people around. Your job should just be to try and explode someone. Like, find someone to combo and then just smash them into pieces. And as long as it's a 200 hit point target, you can probably do it. If you can get to the sports, great. If there's a wall nearby, slam them into it. Otherwise, just bully targets that you can make vulnerable and then just kill them. So if you can uppercut someone, uppercut them, finish them, clean up, all that good stuff. Off topic, I usually destroy teams with Hanzo, but stop playing him because people constantly complain about the pick. When that happens, it makes me play worse. My win rate is 58% with him. I play Tracer more now and I'm doing well, but Hanzo is more fun to play. What would you do? I do switch to him as needed if it's not going well. So this is kind of a common thing. If I were you, like, if you genuinely want and enjoy playing Hanzo, pick him. As long as it fits with the rest of the team, as long as you're not doing anything untoward, pick him. Just say, I'll swap if it doesn't work, but I have a good win rate with him. Just trust a little, it can work. And then if they still abuse you, you just mute the people doing it, whatever. If it doesn't work, then you swap, and you can go to Tracer, you can go to Soldier, something more reliable, and build off the back of that. As long as you're doing the swap, it's perfectly fine. A well-played Hanzo can do a lot of work. A well-played Hanzo isn't necessarily a troll pick. It's just very, very variable in what you can do. If you want to maintain your sanity, then the Tracer pick is just always going to be more tolerated. Like, when you are picking heroes that are as volatile or as unpredictable in terms of how they play, as Hanzo, so Hanzo, Widow, Sombra all kind of fall into these categories, you are always going to have to deal with people bitching a bit. And you've just got to sort of get used to that, and then if it gets too obnoxious, just put people on mute and then go from there. If you're playing in Europe, at least you know you're not missing out on too much in terms of comms, probably. But yeah. Just do the best you can with what you got. If you really want to get good with Hanzo, if you love playing Hanzo, then you have a right to play Hanzo, but understand that you also have almost when you play competitive, almost an obligation to swap if it doesn't work out, if it's not going well. If your aim is off that day, which happens when you're playing snipers, then you should be swapping to something else. As Tracer Genji, I always have trouble staying with Winston after the first push. We murder someone on the first dive and wind up going our own ways the rest of the match. That might be just more on you. Like, you gotta remember that Winston is less mobile than you, as Tracer especially. As Genji, it's still less mobile, but not as huge a degree. So the Winston, like, I mean, first dive, Winston goes in, should deal a bunch of damage, and then should, like, peel back, heal back up, and then be looking for something else to do while the team captures the point. Let's say that you first engagement, and then you win. After that, you should just be keeping an eye out for opportunities to redive. Your team should be staying relatively clumped and watching, like, main choke points. So again, let's take Li Jiang. So this is the enemy spawn. In terms of, like, getting to the point, the corner, there's a health pack here, there's like a little stand here, and then there's the statue here, a little bit of stairs here, and then you can get to sort of the point through this way, the point's down here, right? So what you'll find is that, like, after the first fight, everyone will run down, take the point. It feels good, you got the point, congratulations. After that, ideally as dive, you should be looking to just set up and just see, like, if they're pushing out here, if they're pushing out on the higher ground and dropping down, like, what are they doing, where are they going next, and then if they try and do something, if they do push out, then you can just jump on them and go for them. And so you're basically just trying to set up another dive, effectively. The Tracer and Genji should be sort of poking around, so Genji especially can, like, use this wall, bounce up, poke down, that kind of stuff, and Tracer can, like, be poking around here, looking for opportunities to get some damage in, build up a pulse bomb, maybe get something done. But once the Winston wants to commit, that's when the DPS has to sort of tuck in a bit, and it's partially on the Winston's job to, like, call this out. Ideally, the Winstons would call this out. Is like, okay, I'm going, let's dive X, going in 5 seconds, or going in 3 seconds or something, then it's up to the Genji and Tracer to be there to react. But you just want to make sure that you are in positions where if the Winston does go in, you can help him. And then you need to help him, because if you don't, he's going to die, he's going to feed 500 health, and it's going to go bad. So just make sure that you're in position to where you can see the enemy team. You're being active, but then if the Winston does want to do something, or there's an opportunity for the Winston to do something, you can then follow up on that accordingly. Who will Doomfist counter more than D.Va? This feels like a trick question. My short answer is no one off the bat, in terms of, like, hard counter, or, like, overall game impact. I think the very presence of Doomfist makes running D.Va very difficult, and opens Zarya back up into the game. Other than that, yeah, I wouldn't say he does it, like, particularly knocks anyone out of the game more. If you have an idea of someone he knocks out of the game more, I'm all ears. But I think D.Va is the biggest one. What are some of the things to watch for when people are trying to bait out your deflectors? Genji, I find oftentimes on the opposite end of the spectrum, it seems easier to pull out his deflect more than he would like to be. Generally, like, any heroes with abilities are the ones generally trying to bait deflect out. So when I'm playing McCree, I'll generally just, like, left-click Genji a lot rather than going for the flashbang. Like a couple of weeks ago, we're coaching the many, I drew a big chart of, like, why it's kind of bad to flashbang early. And you should just left-click and then just go for it. Good Reinhardt's, like, watch if you are playing Genji and the enemy Reinhardt fire strikes but throws it into walls, understand that he is baiting out your deflect. And then play accordingly. Play understanding that this Reinhardt is either a complete idiot and missed, or more likely, especially at high levels, he actually is trying to just bait out your stuff. So you want to be very careful, and if he does try and do that, then you can try and reposition to try and catch wherever he's sending it to. So normally, like, the way it will work is the enemy team is here, so this is like a head-on view. There's some cover here. The enemy team is like setting up over here. There's a Genji in there going MADA MADA, and you're sort of playing the Reinhardt. You will aim a fire strike here, so it looks like it's traveling to the enemy team, but it's actually going to hit the wall, and so Genji has to get out of position to try and deflect it, and will just try and deflect, but won't get anything. So like that's a sort of a common trick. Otherwise, just like when you are playing the Genji, if you deflect early, as long as you are stopping damage, then that's the idea. Like the entire point of using deflect is to give you some time for cooldowns to come up, give you some time to get some heals, and then try and get a little bit of bonus damage. And maybe block an important ability. So as long as you are getting that done, and if you aren't, then you can just cancel, like especially if your dash is still up, then you can just cancel out of the deflect and just get away or reposition yourself appropriately. If your deflect is, if your dash is down, then you're fighting a McCree, for example, the second that deflect goes down, understand he's going to flash. So try and reposition yourself accordingly to where he can't just kill you, try and get away, try and create distance, that kind of stuff. It's just like, deflect is a tool in your box and you shouldn't be afraid to use it, but once you have used it, realize that there are consequences to doing so, and after using it, then make sure that you are playing accordingly mentally. Like, oh, I do not have this ability, therefore I need to adjust how I'm playing. What abilities do they have? What can they hit me with? All that kind of stuff. Should they change it so that the impact damage from hitting the wall, so Doomfist punches scales with how long it's charged? So it does scale, actually. You can't tap one to kill people with 200 hit points. It's the first big thing you need to know, Rule. So a tap punch does 50 damage, and a tap punch into a wall does 100. Which is kind of important. It's as you charge, the amount of damage increases, and the multiplier also increases. So basically, like a like let's say tap. I drew that reads top. So tap and full. Okay, so tap, when you hit, is 50, and then when you hit a wall, is plus 50. When you do a full hit, it's 100 plus 150. Okay, and as you get closer to the full charge, these numbers increase. And like, you can think of this like a multiplier, so this multiplier is it's just times 2. And then this multiplier is times 2.5. I think. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it is. Always avoid doing maths on stream. So, like, the multiplier also increases the longer you charge it. So, the kill point for 200 hit point here is actually more like 66% charge. People have found it's more about 50 to 66% is when you'll start getting the kills. As you could just be straight 50. 250, you need as much as possible, you need more, that kind of stuff. So yeah, like, I think that people are going to react to it very negatively at first, but it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust. It's a big ability, it's a big, strong ability, it's very, very powerful in terms of how it works. It might be a little bit too powerful because it's a bit too easy to use, but it's day 2. Now is not the time to be calling for nerfs, now it's just the time to be playing around with stuff. And I think that people have this very reactionary thing of like, they play a game, they get punched to death by Doomfist, and they go, oh, this seems overpowered. But then, until you get him into actual games and see how he actually functions next to all the other heroes, it's so fucking hard to get a gauge of how powerful that actually is. Where it could be the amount of times he gets kills with the right click, sure, you can punch someone into a wall every 20 seconds, but killing someone every 20 seconds isn't as good as playing Tracer where you kill someone every 5 by just shooting them to death. Like, it's very easy to pull these things out of context and think, holy shit, that seems broken, but without putting them into context, without seeing how they properly work, it's very, very hard to get a gauge on it. It's tricky. So I say, like, put nerfs and buffs out of your mind and think about, how does this kit work? How do I get the most out of it? What's the ideal playstyle for it? All that kind of stuff. Hello, Ryan. Doomfist CC supposedly doesn't work on Bastion in Turret form. I haven't actually tried that, so hey. Good to know. Let's see. Any other questions? Couple more. We'll play some Doomfist. I want to play some Doomfist. I've been working on my Tracer and thought it improved a lot. I just recently was able to reach Diamond, but Master Overwatch says that my stats regarding everything is worse. Am I wrong then, and should I listen to the statistics? So I'm gonna rant about Master Overwatch a little bit, and like, okay, if you are climbing in rating and playing against better players and playing against better people, and you're winning games and your MMR is going up, clearly something is working. If the statistics are saying that you are playing worse, then the conclusion isn't to draw, I am playing worse, but my MMR is going up. Like that's dissonant with itself. That's not the conclusion to draw. The conclusion to draw then is, I am playing against better players, therefore they're avoiding my damage better, positioning better, healing better against it, I'm getting less overall damage output. All this kind of stuff is more true. And like, this is true if I get a chance to play against people in Platinum or Gold, I have a very easy time just hitting the shit out of them. It's because they move differently, they play in different ways, they're more likely to get out of position, they're more likely to be vulnerable to certain things. So as you get higher and higher in rank, the ability of you to confirm kills and stuff is going to get lower and lower and lower and lower. Also, comparatively to other people at your level, you will be performing worse. So if you get gold medals non-stop when you're playing in Platinum, but then you go and play in a Masters level game, you might not be getting gold medals because the Soldier 76 is waking up, or the McCree is just killing the shit out of everyone, or the Winston is just doing way more than a Winston in Platinum can do. And so you've just got to keep this sort of stuff in mind with statistics. Be very, very careful when using these third-party statistics sites. Like, it tilts the shit out of me when I see people link like, oh, Oversumo says I'm a Grandmaster level Mercy. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? If you aren't in Grandmaster, it means that you're healing a lot, but that means that people might just be taking more damage, but kills aren't being confirmed, therefore you're healing more. So that information is useless. It's completely pointless. The statistics are there to support stuff, and like say, my aiming seems to be getting worse, what can I do about it? Why? What are possible reasons? Is my aiming actually getting worse, or are people moving better? Therefore, do I need to adjust my aiming style? That's using statistics to support what you're doing. If you just use the statistics and try and draw like very simplistic conclusions from them, you can draw fucking anything out of them. Take it as someone who did like statistics in university as part of their degree. Statistics, like, this is why, as a pharmacologist, I needed 3 years at least of pharmacology training, and if I wanted to get into industry, I would need like another 2 years of master degree, or I need a PhD or something, to actually then be able to interpret results properly and actually use those results properly. Just using statistics alone doesn't really get you far, because statistics need to be interpreted, and then to do that properly, you need to have, like, you need to put a lot of thought into it. And if the conclusion you're drawing from the statistics, which sort of, you know, you've highlighted it here, of like, my MMR is climbing, but my stats are getting worse, what gives? You sort of notice that there's a dissonance there. And so you've got to understand that the dissonance, like, at the end of the day, the result is the result, and you can't argue with that, which is that you are now at a higher rating. Therefore, are you worse? Probably not. Okay, what do these statistics then mean? What can they actually support in? Oh, maybe my enemies are better, maybe I'm landing less shots therefore, but I'm still being moderately effective somehow, but my effectiveness is going down in comparison to where I was before, because people are just better, so I need to up my play another level if I want to keep on this sort of winning streak. That's how you use these statistics. WRT Rhine. People are saying he's dead, but I think he slipped into a new position Blizzard originally intended. The mercy of off-tanks, i.e. good for low new level players, but gets less useful the lower you climb. I'd disagree with that. Just because Reinhardt takes a lot of positioning, a lot of skill to play properly. And as such, he's very... Like, I understand where you're coming from in terms of, like, he's very sort of easy to play out of the box, but to master him, it's very, very tricky. And, yeah, it's... I think Reinhardt just has a place in the game, and right now the meta just doesn't favor him. He'll come back at some point. He might need a change now that Doomfist is in, though, because the problem that I see with Doomfist is that the punch is a stun, and it goes through barriers. So, if Reinhardt is stood behind a barrier, and he's protecting his team, and Doomfist comes in, then that punch is like a 1-second stun. The barrier is going to go down, and the team behind him is vulnerable. And if Doomfist can just shut him down like that instantly, goodbye Reinhardt. Like, why have a Reinhardt if his barrier just goes down immediately? And so it's kind of You could conceivably try and run like Zarya Reinhardt, and then try and have the Zarya cover the Rein if they try and dive him. That could work, maybe. But beyond that, it's very difficult. Because it doesn't help that his hit rate is absolutely foobar at the moment. I think Reinhardt will come back at some point. At some point. Season 2 Apex, where Lunatic hires Who Are You, basically fisted Runaways Genji Haskell with a Discord orb on himself. And let him declares at the map. Season 3 he managed to kill both Fire, Mercy in the Sky. How is he consistent like that? He's consistent like that because he's really fucking good. Boombox does it as well all the time. Zenyatta's are getting good at dealing with Genji and Tracer. And something we should all strive to be, basically, is as a Zenyatta, like, if you're playing Genji or Tracer against Zen, the Genji and Tracer needs to be slightly afraid. They need to be slightly cautious, especially once Discord Orb goes on them. They can die extremely fast, and you need to be good enough as Zenyatta to be able to put that fear into them. If you are not, then you need to practice Zenyatta more, play him in quick play him wherever you can, and try and improve your aim. Because if you can't land orbs as Zenyatta, you are missing a huge part of his kit. Like, you bring Zenyatta for 2 reasons, well, for 3 reasons, I guess. Reliable healing, Discord Orb, great ultimate, 4 reasons, and decent damage. Like, and if you're missing that decent damage component, then why bring Zenyatta? Does Doomfist not back differ for Diva? Other boops don't work worth crap on her? I think it works the same. I think it works the same. Well, I think that's about it for questions. It's a good time to finish up. So let's do this. Coaching. If you do want to send in footage, and please do, especially on this new patch coming up as well. Send it into oamreviews@gmail.com, include the hero name and the rank in the title, plus a little bit of a description of the game in the email. And yeah, basically I might pick it, I might review it. I need more footage at the moment. I do have like some that I can use, but still want more, always hungry for more. And yeah. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. Thank you for Metabrit for submitting this. And if you do want to join us live at 10 PM BST on Fridays and Saturdays. Show usually goes for about an hour. Then they do eventually get uploaded to YouTube. I've been a bit slow on that lately, but I've got back into it now. We also uploaded yesterday about 3 hours of Doomfist scrims with pros playing it and me watching it. Stylosa also joins in and watches a bunch of it as well. It's good times. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Come join us live at some point. Trust me, it's a much better show live than it is on YouTube. And otherwise, thank you for watching to the end. Toodles. There we go.